Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. I hope you're all safe wherever you are. Thank you again for joining me on a Thursday for the Alfa Romeo Owners Club Bianco Motorsport Future Alfa Racing Championship. It has been a very hard-fought season for all the drivers, and still it comes down to the final round to decide two of the series. The touring title is all sewn up. That has been won by Glen as the class champion with 221 points. The historic championship is all sewn up. That has been won by Matt Daly on 125 points. The prize winner for the overall championship, so the highest non-professional qualified non-professional driver in the series will join the grid, the actual real-life grid of the Alfa Romeo Championship Association, and that's all been sewn up, and that's done after a few incidents from last Thursday. That has been awarded to Colin Cuniffe, who will get a chance to drive that car in conjunction with, as I said, Alfa Romeo Championship Association and Bianco Motorsport. So well done to him. That was the one I wasn't quite sure about at the end of the stream, but it was all sorted out and done and dusted. So tonight the drivers will be fighting for the endurance title. At the moment led by Colin Cuniffe on 80 points. And then 20 points behind him is Matt Daly, and I haven't worked it out, but on 53 points in third place is Andrew Whitehead as well. So I believe from the calculations only Colin or Matt are in with a chance of taking that title, but there are several permutations that could depend the overall result for that one. And then the actual overall title for all three of the classes, and at the moment that is led by Matt Daly on 404 points, followed by Colin Cuniffe on 389, and then third place Andrew Whitehead with 358. So qualifying has begun. We are racing at Watkins Glen this evening for the final endurance round of the series. Let's just get on track with the rest of them. There we are. So currently, with just over 17 minutes remaining of qualifying, we have Andrew Whitehead setting a provisional pole of 151.530 just as he slows up, and just making sure no one's going to come across the racing line with him while he tries to prepare for the next lap. 0.7 seconds behind him currently is Alan Matthews, who has just been leapfrogged by Greg Young, setting personal best in the first sector in a good time. Now 0.5, half a second behind Andrew Whitehead on the pole. And again, even another change as we speak, so another personal best time for James Rose, who's now hit Andrew Whitehead to provisional pole. So it's all changing at the moment, but there's still time for the drivers to find their pace for this evening. So as I said, we are racing at Watkins Glen this evening using the longer sort of international layout, if you will, 11 corners. Very, very good, exciting track. Very sort of narrow when it comes to some of the barriers and things like that. Plenty of runoff in other corners. Slightly challenging, I think, for some of the drivers. Can catch you out on the off-camber circuits if you're not careful. And they are racing in the 4C S2 Aeros, 517 brake horsepower, 850 kilogram cars. We see James Rose, a masterclass of sliding it. Oh, I thought he was going to catch that for a second. Masterclass of sliding the car, but unfortunately wasn't to be on that one, so that will be a null and void lap. But at the moment he's done enough to stay ahead of Andrew Whitehead, who is now 0.7 seconds, 0.74 seconds behind the provisional pole with 15 minutes remaining. So there's been some... Oh, as we see, Andrew White unfortunately just career off the track there, so he'll have to go and have the car repaired before continuing to his qualifying efforts. And Matt Daly again setting a personal best time throughout the sectors, and setting a 1:50.021, who will be the first to set a 1:49. Also, I think running with a slight... Oh, that could be the paintwork. Looked like slight damage on the bumper there, but I think that's the paintwork of the car. So looking further down the field, James Rose currently in second place, provisional second place on the front row of the grid for the race. 0.7 seconds behind. Outside of a second now, Greg Young heading up the second row. Andrew Whitehead behind him, who is just having the car repaired. Alan Matthews currently on the third row with Colin Knief. Guy Swarbrick setting a very good time for a provisional 7th place on the grid at the moment. Tim Perry slightly behind him, and the last of the time setters for now, Stephen Light. So we still have two gentlemen yet to set a time. Guys, we're having a little bit of a spin there, unfortunately. Paul Plant also stationary now, so I expect he's making setup changes before continuing on a lap as he does leave the pits now. Andrew Whitehead's car, for a second there, looks like it was still damaged, but it has been repaired. Greg Young, I think, running a little bit wide in the first corner. I'll have to go round again. Paul Plant, of course, the sponsored there by Bianco himself. Rob Whitney setting a fantastic time, jumping his way all the way up to the second row of the grid. Greg going back in the pits for setup changes. Matt Daly setting an even faster time now in the first sector than before. Let's see if we can actually get a bit quicker joined by this round. Due to the setup of the track, we actually have a helicopter cam, which should be quite interesting during the event. Tim Perry there setting very good time, just 0.1 of a second. They're all getting closer to that 1:49 mark. It looks like Tim is currently on track, although looks like he's had a bit of a slower second sector. So that may potentially have written off the time for him, but let's just see when he comes across the start finish straight as he does now. And it doesn't improve on his time moment, but he does have the speed. He does have places to gain time in the first sector. As Matt Daly's just coming on the back of Paul Plant there, still yet to set a time. Tim Perry now currently in second on the front row of the grid. Again, setting a very quick first sector. Matt again is on the same sort of pace as well. But the difference being Matt has traffic in front of him to contend on his qualifying lap. but the tow could even be a massive benefit. Very similar second sectors by the looks of it. So this could be a change for pole as Tim just comes around the final corner. Indeed it is the first to break the 1:49 mark, and by some margin as well. Matt Daly now, and James Rose as well does. Is in the 49 club as well. Matt Daly putting a good middle sector on this current lap. As Andrew Whitehead diving out the way. And Matt calls it quits on this lap and returns to the pits to tinker with the car. However, unbeknownst to me, Rob Whitney setting an even quicker time than everyone so far. 0.051 of a second now quicker. Jumping his way up to the provisional pole position there. Just over 8 minutes of qualifying remaining now. Tim Perry is currently out on track. Has put in 2 fantastically quick sectors. Just the final corner to go. Has time in hand, I think, to jump up that final place that he needs. Indeed he does, and breaks the 1:48 barrier as well. Considerable effort made by him, showing everyone how it's done, what pace there is out there as well. Now nearly a second behind Rob Whitney, has some work to do. Don't think anyone else is on. An incredible fly. Greg Young just running slightly wide there on the back straight. Paul Plant setting the time now. So the first time he sets straight into the 1:49 club. Able to tidy up his line just enough that not to, I'm sure, invalidate any laps, and now he has. He obviously has the pace to get further up the field. Tim Perry again held up very slightly. Stephen Knight nearly taking up the back end of Tim's car, but avoiding that incident at the moment. Over 6 minutes of qualifying remaining. Colin Keneath jumping all the way up to, let's say, series class. If I can get my words right here. Prize winner for the Alfa Romeo Championship Association and class champion for the touring car class. Has a bit more pace in him, and indeed came across the line and showed us that he did. But is currently being pushed down by James Rose, finding more time in the lap. So Colin is in a good position from where he is, but his closest rival, Matt Daly, currently is 6th on qualifying, so that could be a big deciding factor on where they both qualify in the race, as to whether Matt has to deal with any traffic. Paul Plant nearly doing better on his time before, nearly jumping into the 1:48 club. So the top 5 now, all within a second of each other. As we count down the seconds. Very serene in this helicopter camera, I've discovered. Not like an actual helicopter at all, but Paul Partner showing us the pace through the bus stop. Oh, slight wobble there from the back end, and does keep it under control and is able to continue the lap. So a slight moment there, and Paul will have to try again for a quick lap there. James Rose, I think it sets a personal best first sector. Andrew Whitehead just finishing his time now, 1:49. Oh, very wide off the curving there on the second to last corner. At turn 10. Looks like it's still kept the lap. Don't believe it's invalidated it. It may actually have invalidated that lap, actually being that far off the curb. So just needs to tidy up his line slightly through that section, and then he will be in a very strong position. Top 5, well, they're all within it, so all the way down to top 7 place now, all within a second of the fastest time. Rob Whitney coming through, setting another fantastic lap, breaking into the 1:48 club as well. And currently on the front row, so quite a very, very hotly contested qualifying session now. So 3 minutes left to go. Everyone's sort of getting into stride a little bit, but could still be anyone's to gain pole position. Tim Perry still holding strong, but has been pipped for pole by Matt Daly, who gets himself where he needs to be on the grid. He needs to be for the overall points, needs to be ahead of Colin, and needs to be considerably high up the grid or the finishing order to have a chance at the endurance class as well. And again, finding even more time. Matt Daly now. Oh, Tim Perry managed to get the lap back. So Matt, well, I was looking at the points there. Matt Daly now jumping, and they're both put in both put in personal best first sectors as well. So they're both going even quicker. 2 minutes of qualifying remaining. They're still very, very tightly racing for pole position. Could be a massive, massive decider. Colin Knief not as high up the order as he ideally would want to be. However, it does put in a personal best second sector. Paul Plant putting in a 1:48.9. As we see Tim Perry and Matt Daly both putting in, again, personal best sector, second to last corner for Matt. If he doesn't overrun the curbing, validate the lap. Very good line. Looks like that should just be enough. Last corner now for Matt to put in. Looks like Tim might be held up by traffic. Does Matt Daly do enough? He doesn't. I think it looks like closed the gap considerably, so just a hair's breadth now between the two. Looks like Tim might have slowed up as well to let the slower car, Guy Swarbrick, in front of him a bit more. I think that last sector, maybe quite, yes, he's already got to 152. So either he got onto the back of Guy Swarbrick, couldn't keep the pace, but he may possibly have just done enough to clinch pole. 35 seconds left, so this will be the last lap for him. Matt Daly, again, last lap to clinch pole position as well. Puts in another personal best first sector. Rob Whitney, quicker in the first sector, slower in the second. Paul Plant's also on a very good time as well. I think Rob will be the first to cross the line. If he can just get across, he may have another chance at the lap. It's going to be tight if he gets across. Don't think he's going to do it. And he does it. I think he did, but he's called it quits on that lap anyway. So currently Rob Whitney is in... currently on the second row. Paul Plant... No, Rob Whitney did actually get across there well. So Matt Daly then, 2 purple sectors. Final corner of the lap. Will it be quick enough to jump himself up to the front? Using all the runoff he can. Comes down the straight. Does indeed do enough to do it. Nearly into the 147 second club. Just a shade off. Colin Keneath, final dash from him puts him second on in the second row of the grid. Fantastic job from him. Tim Perry now final corner. Doesn't look like he's got quite enough pace to do it. And he doesn't, and he will be on the second place on the front row. So a couple of them just left to run, and then the server will be reset, and then we will join them for the race, and we will be back again very shortly. So, welcome back to the final race of the 2020 season for the Alfa Romeo Owners Club Championship. Just over 40 seconds remaining till the start of the race. 45-minute race for you this evening, plus 1 lap from the leader. Fortunately, I can't seem to run through the grid order as I normally would. But as you can see, Matt Daly has done enough to take pole position. And his rival for a couple of the series last leads, Colin Knief starting in 4th position. 6 lights appear on the gantry. All the drivers ready and raring to go. The engine notes rise. And they are away. Andrew Whitehead, Paul Plant shifting through the pack. Looks like they got a very good start. The first 4 look unchanged as they head through the field. There's a bit of shunting in the back. Greg Young, I think, bore the brunt of some of that fighting with Andrew Whitehead. But they all filter into place. Looks like Guy Swarbrick is on the wrong side of the track for what he wants to be with Rob Whitney. But the lead has remained unchanged. However, Paul Plant is challenging James Rose for 3rd position. Paul has the inside line and does get the manoeuvre done very cleanly. And Colin Knief has actually lost out and now in 5th position. But again, it's challenging James Rose for that position again. James Rose lost a lot of momentum there through the bus stop. And the Paul Plant is now in the fight for the lead. There's actually been a change. Tim Parry's managed to get past Matt Daly. And now Matt Daly is under a lot of pressure. Colin Knief is on the outside of James Rose trying to get round, but isn't able to do it. Paul Plant is mounting a lot of pressure on Matt Daly. Matt Daly's trying to defend. Coming up to the heel of the circuit. Both under braking. Very nearly contact between the two. Paul Plant seriously late on the brakes. Trying to gain as much as he can. Both fall in the line. James Rose running a little bit wide. Left the door open for Colin Knief, but he can't get the job done. Again, Paul Plant putting a lot of pressure on Matt Daly. Tim Parry hoping to just drive away up the field. Showed very, very good pace in the qualifying session. 0.3 of a second between them. Into the heavy braking zone, turn 1. Been a change at the back. Greg Young's got past Guy Swarbrick as they come over to start-finish straight. But the leaders mainly remain unchanged. Colin Knief back in 5th actually after the start. Not where he wants to be for the grid position, but he is just enough. Looks like James Rose is trying to get in the slipstream. Paul Plant get the run down slightly quicker through the bus stop than Paul. Matt Daly on the back of Tim Parry. And they've all sort of settled into their line at the moment. Long race ahead of us, but they're all still fighting from the get-go. Paul Plant again with that pressure on Matt Daly. A little bit of a squiggle there from Matt's yellow car. Puts him in a slight disadvantage going into the braking zone, but is able to defend his position as they go around turn 7. Top 5 all very close to position. Alan Matthews starting to fall off the back there. James Rose, beg your pardon, is a take. Challenging Paul Plant is up the inside. They all brake. Matt turns in, nearly hits the front of James Rose's car. They're still battling for position, but Paul Plant has to concede. Colin Knief trying to follow James's example, putting a lot of pressure on Paul. Fantastic racing. Paul Plant again up the inside. Final corner race side by side, but again concedes and gets round and falls back into 4th position. The gap between Matt Daly and Tim Parry, 0.6 of a second. Can Paul Plant do anything into the first corner? Heavy on the brakes. Not able to do anything, but James runs very wide on the off run. That'll slow him down. A lot of pressure from Paul Plant now under the wing. James Rose trying to go side by side through the sweeping bends. Not able to do it down the back straight now to the inner loop. Paul Plant slightly ahead, but can he get in front of James before the corner? He does. A slight contact and James loses a lot of speed. Colin Knief is able to sneak up as well and get 4th position back from James Rose. It's a very, very aggressive driving, incredibly clean from all the drivers there. And there's been a half spin from James Rose, but then now a full spin and pirouette, and loses out on a couple of positions, but does get going very cleanly. And Rob Whitney now on the back of him. So James will have to get back up to speed, otherwise he may lose out on further positions. But a great shame that lost the back end there coming out of the chute, turn 6. At the front of the grid, seconds open up now between Tim Perry and Matt Daly. Paul Plant now on the attack, trying to get as close as he can to that yellow car. Now with no James Rose to worry about. However, Colin Knief is behind him. Let's see. Interesting to see how much pace Colin is in a very, very good point scoring position, for to get a good result now. Andrew Whitehead at the back there, you can see on the tail of Alan Matthews. There will be points involved. James Rose looks like he has actually, I think, made another mistake and dropped a couple more places there behind Rob Whitney and James Rose. That's where he is, James Rose. So Rob Whitney and Greg Young have managed to get past him. Gap opening up even more now between Tim and Matt. But between Matt and Paul, getting a bit closer now. Paul doing everything he can. He will soon be in the slipstream, which I believe he is now. Will he look to an inside manoeuvre? Not quite yet, still biding his time. So slight half spin there. They'll lose pace on the track. Does that bring him in the clutches of Colin? Both go through the braking zone, coming up to turn 10 now. But they all seem to even out roughly where they were before. They're all to do again as we just get on to lap 4. Tim sees us onto lap 4 now. Fantastic focus and pace by Tim to take back first position. Colin right under the wing of Paul Plant. They head through the fast sweeping corners of turns 2 and 3. Now back on the back straight. Paul Plant defending already, going into the bus stop. Andrew Whitehead as well, trying to look for a manoeuvre behind him on Alan Matthews. Can he do it? He's up alongside. Gets back in line, and Alan Matthews has to concede that one, but he will be trying to get that position back by the looks of it. Colin Knief still on the wing of Paul Plant. There's a gap now, 1.1 seconds between Tim Perry and Matt Daly. Tim doing his best just to open up as much of a buffer as he can. 0.4 of a second between Colin Knief and Paul Plant. Colin running a little bit wide on that corner, lost a little bit of ground on Paul. It seems to be slightly stronger in the last final few corners. So no one able to do anything for the final few corners. Is Colin in enough of a slipstream to make a manoeuvre on the first corner? Not quite both on the braking, turning in late. But that will be a incredible amount of pressure on Paul now. Can Colin get the manoeuvre done down the straight to the bus stop? He will. He is close, very, very close now. Very close for the slipstream. Paul's trying to defend. Colin looks to the outside. Can he get the job done under braking? They're side by side. They turn in. Colin can seize that one at the moment. But you can see that he is looking very closely outside the circuit. These cars, we've seen it in practice a couple of times. You touch the grass, it does not like it. So you want to avoid going over the line as much as possible. Very much like ice. For these cars, these 500 horsepower cars weighing just 8.8 of a ton, roughly. Everyone's settling into their pace now for the endurance run. But the battle still very close between Colin Keneath and Paul Plant. Well, looks like he slowed up slightly in the final few corners. Will Colin be close enough again to get him down the straightaway? Seems slightly slower in the last corner. Tim Perry setting a fastest lap as he sees us on to lap 6 now. Everyone generally evening out. Andrew Whitehead still in front of Alan Matthews of his 6th place. Colin not quite close enough to make a manoeuvre this time, going down to the bus stop. So I think he's just saving that manoeuvre for later. Rob Whitney down in 7th. Greg Young in 8th after a not ideal first lap. First corner rather. James Rose again tailing in 9th. Guys Fallbrook after quite a damaged car, so not too sure what's happened to the guy there. He was battling with a couple of other cars. Not sure why he's got quite so much damage on at the moment. And Stephen Knight down in 11th. Paul Plant putting a lot of pressure on Matt Daly now. He's managed to get as close as possible. He's looking where he can try and get in. Is the door open for him on the inside? No, it's not. But he's showing his intentions to Matt now. He wants to get past and disappear up the road. Second to last corner now, over the curbs. Turn 11, both braking. Paul Plant looks like he was on the brakes slightly longer. So that will slow his pace down for the straightaway, but he knows where he can get close to Matt and try and make a manoeuvre. The favourite sort of overtaking position at the moment seems to be on the run into the bus stop down the back straight. Fast enough you can kind of ease. It's not quite a heavy brake. It's not a heavy braking zone into that corner, so. But due to that loss of pace in the final corner, he's not quite close enough yet. But he is working as hard as he can. So Colin Keneath has slightly dropped off the pace at the back, but is still very much in touch if any of our front four have any issues. Two seconds between Matt Daly and Tim Perry. The Paul Plant seems to be a lot later on the brakes going into turn 8. And then seems to be able to carry speed a little bit more through the final corners. But it was turn 11 backed off from Matt Daly a little bit now. Very, very close gap between the two. Paul Plant looks like he's trying to line up another attempt at the manoeuvre. Just edging even closer as he can. Alan Matthews, sorry, has got past Andrew Whitehead in the first corner. Ran wide. Andrew's now up the inside of the circuit. Still side by side heading into turns 3 and 4. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a drag race down the back straightaway. I don't think there was contact between the two there. Andrew taking a slightly wobbly line. Alan looking at the inside of the corner, but not able to do it quite yet. See the suspension working away there as they run over the bumps there. Pit window is open, so they only have a 15-minute pit window where they are required to take a pit stop. Which I'm sure they will all need to do. Whether it's a 1 or 2 stop strategy for this evening's race, I'm not too sure. Looks like Paul Plant and Matt Daly is side by side, coming up to turns 10, I think. Camera slightly cut away. Paul Plant on the inside, a little bit of a wobble there, loses a lot of speed. Colin Knieve also running a little bit wide, trying to catch up to them, get in on the action. So Matt Daly under a lot of pressure from Paul Plant there, but kept a very cool head and a very tidy line to maintain that second position now. Tim Perry hoping they squabble a little bit more, allows him to open up a bigger gap. Colin Knief still very much in touch with the front runners back in 4th. The battle still continuing for 5th place between Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews. As Alan Matthews looks for the inside line on Andrew Whitehead and does get it done. Does he run wide? Yes, you could see he was carrying way too much speed heading into... He had the run on the drag race, but missed his braking zone quite badly, unfortunately, and just overrun quite considerably. So it looks like he's having slight connection issues, perhaps, so hopefully he can continue for the entirety of the race. Looks like a battle for 7th, brewing between Greg Young and Rob Whitney. James Rose back in 9th, and Ghost Warwick and Stephen Knight in 10th and 11th. There's been... it looks like there was contact. Matt Daly is spun, just got himself going again. So contact into turn 8 from the two of them. So Matt Daly's managed to get going, is still in touch of the places in front of him just about, but Colin Knief has got through both of them now. Very, very strange manoeuvre from the two of them. That's a place that we've seen Paul Plant sort of getting very, very close to people, getting into the braking zone of turn 8. And perhaps that resulted in contact. But they are all going again now. Beg pardon, Tim Parry now 5 seconds up the road from this battle. So now Paul Plant will have Colin Knief in his sights. That's not where Matt Daly wants to be to try and gain considerable points. Paul Plant right on the back of Matt Daly, of Colin Knief's car, beg pardon. They both turn into turn 7. Paul Plant running wide on the grass. That looks like it may lose speed. He's looking up the inside of turn 8, under braking, dips back behind. Slight half spin as well. So unbalanced the car quite considerably going into that braking zone. Lost a bit of momentum on his charge to take 2nd place from Colin Knief. So just over 25 minutes of the race remaining, 10 minutes of the pit window remaining as well, and we have yet to see anyone dive into the pits yet for fuel or tyres. Currently Tim Perry is leading the race on lap 11, now 5.5 seconds ahead of Colin Knief in second place, and at the moment roughly 0.7 behind him is Paul Plant in third. Paul Plant still there, putting an immense amount of pressure on the OP Oils car in front of him. We've seen where Paul is strongest on the track. Stephen Knight has unfortunately spun in turn 9. Has hit the track. It does look like he's going to continue. Daly back in fourth place. Does look to be gaining quite quickly on two cars in front of him. Paul Plant very close now on the final corner. Will be in the slipstream down the straightaway. Turn 1, I think, very difficult to make a manoeuvre on. He's looking at the outside, trying to get as wide a line as he can. They both run down the runoff area. Paul running a little bit wider there, but does carry the speed. Carries quite a lot of speed actually through turns 3. He's now, there's contact between the two. Very Paul Plant spinning out of control behind him now. So Matt Daly has got past him as well. There's also a change in the, I'm not sure what happened in the middle. There was a change in the middle order, but Paul Plant just getting going now. Matt Daly can't believe his luck on that one, I think. Very strange incident. Look at Paul Plant, had a lot of speed going down the straightaway, going from turn 4 down to the sort of the bus stop area. Yeah, very strange contact between Paul Plant and Colin Knief down the straight, and Paul Plant bouncing off the side of Colin's car. And so now he will have damage, as you can see, running wide. Whether that was a connection issue or just an error on his part, not too sure. But very strange incident down the back straight. Now he is paid the price, back down in 6th. Looks like Greg Young did get in front of Rob Whitney, and soon will be chasing down Paul Plant as well. That's not going to be good for Paul and his car. Taking quite considerable damage hitting the barriers. So after that incident on Tim Perry, just taking us into lap 13 now. 20 minutes of the race remaining. He is currently in front running position with Colin Knief behind him at 5.4 seconds down the road. Matt Daly now up into 3rd. Greg Young has indeed getting past Paul Plant down the main straight, so Paul's lost a immense amount of pace from his car now with that damage he has to contend with. Rob Whitney looks like to be the first to take to pit road. Within the pit window. So Tim Perry, Colin Knief and Matt Daly round out the top 3 for the moment. Andrew Whitehead up into 4th now with that incident from Paul Plant. Alan Matthews doing his best to try and keep up with the red and white car in front of him. Try and challenge for 4th position. Greg Young back in 6th now. Paul Plant after that incident down in 7th. James Rose in 8th. Rob Whitney exiting the pit now in 9th position. But it looks like with a 45-minute race, he will most likely be pitting for the or won't need to pit for the rest of the race now. Swarbrick also with damage as well. A slight unfortunately, it's the barrier. A couple of times on the entry to the pit does also take the pit road as well. And Stephen Knight back in 11th. Both currently 1 lap down, so wasn't... Unfortunately missed a moment when they got past each other. Colin Keneally running wide at turn 1. Matt Daly slightly tidier line. Gap roughly 4 or 5 seconds between them. So Paul Plant now takes the pit road for his mandatory pit stop. Hopefully he will be able to repair some of that damage and get some of the pace back in his car. As Guy Swarbrick continues out of pit road and onto the circuit. But for the moment, our race leader, Tim Perry. Hasn't put a foot wrong. Wasn't enough to... wasn't quick enough to take pole position for the race. That was taken by Matt Daly. However, got him on the first lap and has just led away for the majority of pretty much all of the race now after that point. Paul Plant indeed fixes his car, gets some of the pace back and is down in 9th at the moment. That's exiting back onto the circuit. Colin Keneally currently in 2nd. Looked like he was going for the pits but doesn't quite yet. Matt Daly, is he going for his pit stop? He is indeed. And so indeed did Tim Perry. Actually missed that moment that he went into there, but yes, Tim Perry taking to pit road for his pit stop. So does Matt Daly. The 2 front runners. So slightly, as you can see there, grid positions, a few of them, Andrew Whitehead and Alan Matthews as well coming in, stopping at the same time. I don't believe this will bunch them up for the race. We also see that this was actually the last possible moment they could have done. Andrew Whitehead is actually in the pits for longer. Well, Alan Matthews will leapfrog him out of the pits there. Tim Perry's got going as well. Yep, Tim Perry, our back in 3rd, gets going. Matt Daly just getting going now. Andrew Whitehead just leaving, James Rose as well. So Alan Matthews actually did very, very well out of that pit stop. A very quick stop. And gets going again. So that could give him certainly some positions back, if not certainly a lead over Andrew Whitehead, who was his closest competitor. James Rose there just exiting pit road. Rob Whitney, I think, still has to pit. Paul Plant has pit now, so his tyres will be a couple of laps old again, but up to temperature, whereas I think James Rose's will not be. Tim Perry's got up past Alan Matthews very swiftly. Matt Daly, I think, we're hoping to do the same. Well, Alan Matthews, I think, that may have been why his pit was quite so quick. It either has incurred damage after leaving the pit, or just didn't have his damage repaired. That could be why Tim Perry was able to catch up to him quite so quickly. And he's going quite a bit slower as well. I think he may have to... Is he going to come back into the pits? He is indeed. He is indeed. So that's we obviously missed that incident from him, but Matt Daly is up behind Colin Keneally. No, he's not. Beg your pardon. He's up behind Guy Swarbrick. But yeah, a great shame from Alan Matthews. Did a leapfrog to the Andrew Whitehead, who now gets past him as well, but whatever reasons has to repair damage that he incurred. So our current leader at the moment, Colin Knief, I think doing his best to open up much of the gap to Tim Perry, but the gap not very big now. Colin Knief will have to take to pit road, and he hasn't. As the pit window is actually closing. So he hasn't taken to pit road, I don't believe, in the window that he needed to. So we'll have to see whether that's actually taken into account into the race results. But he will certainly have to take to pit road on this lap. He may not make it on the fuel that he's got to get to the end of the race. Or potentially he actually pit before we actually saw him. That is entirely possible as well. I didn't see him take to pit road, and that could be that would have been why he leapfrogged Tim Perry. But yeah, we shall have to wait and see at the moment. Back marker just getting out of the way of Greg Young. So at lap 17 currently sees Colin Knief in first place, and Tim Perry 2 seconds behind him now on certainly fresher tyres and more fuel. Andrew Whitehead, beg your pardon, Matt Daly is in third, roughly 11 seconds behind Tim Perry. Andrew Whitehead currently in 8th. Beg your pardon, Andrew Whitehead currently in 4th. Greg Young back in 5th. James Rose up to 6th. Paul Plant after his incident is in 7th, but chasing down James Rose. Rob Whitney after is currently in 8th. Alan Matthews, unfortunately, still with damage after a second pit stop. So whether something may have glitched out and it's not being repaired, or he's incurred it again, I'm not too sure. Guy Swarbrick down in 10th and Stephen Knight in 11th. Lap 18 now for Colin Knief. Running through the bus stop now, handling that 500 horsepower very well. Not quite as well as it looks like Tim Perry starting to close the gap a little bit, although the gap seems to be maintaining at 2 seconds roughly around turn 6. Daly currently in no man's land, maybe 14 seconds behind the leader. Paul Plant challenging James Rose on the run into the bus stop and does get past him. However, they have a back marker in front of them, which Paul Plant I think will be hoping to get around as quickly as possible. Takes to the inside but does get cut off by Stephen Knight, who moves over to the outside, and Paul Plant gets past him very quickly there. And James Rose taking a little bit longer. Stephen Knight just sticking to his line as he is allowed to, and does move out the way down the boot, down the back, down the straight of the boot. Guy Swarbrick as well, also doing the same. In doing so, Guy Swarbrick has actually been passed by Stephen Knight, who are actually still on the same lap together. And Guy Swarbrick running wide and also spinning the car. Great shame, nearly running into Ansley. Who's that? To take avoiding action. Rob Whitney span as well. They both do get going again. Unfortunately, in avoiding action, Rob Whitney spun, trying to get past Guy Swarbrick, who pulls off and lets him past. So they both get going again. But Stephen Knight is now quite considerably ahead of Guy Swarbrick. Back at the front of the grid, Colin Knief currently in first place on the lap. Tim Perry nearly 2 seconds behind him in second. Matt Daly in third. And Joe Whitehead in fourth. Greg Young back in fifth. Paul Plant up into sixth now. James Rose in seventh. Rob Whitney in eighth. Alan Matthews in ninth. Stephen Knight in 10th. And Guy Swarbrick in 11th. So it looks like Alan Matthews will soon be on the back of Guy Swarbrick to get past him. Colin Knief setting a very good race pace, 1:45.2. Tim Perry now 1.2 seconds behind him. He's doing his best to close the gap, which is coming down very slowly. I see Tim will be trying to get as much speed out of the line as he can. So let's just look at roughly what may happen. Matt Daly being in third. So currently interestingly, oh no, beg your pardon. So after the drop scores take it into account, if nothing untoward happens, this is going to be slight commentator's curse for them now, but if they finish in the position they do now, Colin Knief will be in a very good position to take the endurance, and Matt Daly will be in a very good position to take the overall. Interesting, both in the overall, Matt Daly and Colin Knief tied on points if the drop scores were not taken into account. But there is. That is the slight decider for the championship. However, still 6 minutes of the race remaining, and it can still all change. Tim Perry now, the gap between Colin Knief and Tim Perry now 1.2 seconds. Alan Matthews getting up past Rob Whitney, who looks like he may have had an issue there. Guy Swarbrick sliding through the penultimate corners. Stephen Knight looks still one lap down. Lap 21 of the race. Just breaking into the 6-minute mark. Colin Knief in first place, car number 41. Tim Perry now 1.1 second behind him, closing the gap in the red and white car number 20. So whatever pit strategy Colin ran with does seem to have served incredibly well. But can he defend himself enough to take the final win of the season? .7 of a second there down for the gap between the two cars. Matt Daly back 16 seconds behind them now. Gaps opened up between Greg Young and Andrew Whitehead. Paul Plant trying to chase down Greg Young. A fair way to go for the moment. They all seem to have opened up their gaps a little bit. The only close racing at the moment between the two. Colin Knief and Tim Perry. 4 minutes remaining of the race. Tim Perry not put a foot wrong during the entire race. Led for the majority of the race up until the point where Colin Knief was able to leapfrog him in the pits. .8 of a second between the two. Tim Perry trying to do as much as he can to close the gap. Putting the pressure on Colin Knief. Isn't quite in the slipstream as of yet. Running over the curbs through the bus stop. Through the outer loop, down into the chute. Colin Knief lost seems the gap closed quite considerably, but kept seems to have maintained the gap very, very well. Tim trying to search for as much of the slipstream as he can. Tim Perry won't have many chances left to make a maneuver. They are all still roughly in the same position. How much more can Tim Perry push to try and gain a place? Trying to get into the slipstream of the car in front. Mounting as much pressure as he can. We may possibly get another lap in before the timer reaches 0. It certainly will be very close. You can see how much closer on this lap especially Tim Perry actually is. The gap now down to 0.5 of a second. Slight wobble from Colin Knief's car. He runs wide. That allows Tim right up beside him. Turn 5. Big button. Turn 6 now. Going into the hairpin toe. Will he be close enough for the slipstream? It certainly looks like it. Not quite enough to make a maneuver yet going into turn 8. Spotting their braking zones now for turn 9. 30 seconds until the clock reaches 0. It all hinges on whether we get 2 laps or 1 lap. Looks like we will have 2 laps remaining. Tim Perry's flashing his lights there, trying to psych out Colin Knief. There is a back marker in front of them as well that could come into play. The clock reaches 2-0. 2 laps of the race remaining. Colin Knief trying to defend hard now. Tim looking at the outside of turn 4, down the back straightaway. They are side by side. Who will win out? Tim looking very careful. Colin Knief concedes the place. And Tim does indeed go through into first place again. But by rights, Colin, but he runs very wide, nearly touching the grass there. That will allow Colin up close behind him. Couple of laps left, just needs to keep his head down now and continue that quick pace to get as big a gap as he can from him to Colin Knief. But they do have a back marker as well in front of them, don't forget, that could slow down Guy Swarbrick in the Halvor's car, although they looks like they're at the straightaway. Colin Knief in the slipstream as they come down the boot. Tim defending, Colin Knief late on the brakes, side by side, turning through turn 8. Up the straightaway, Colin Knief, a fantastic outside manoeuvre, takes back first position. Stephen Knight in, I think that's Stephen Knight in the back marker there, slightly holding them up now. No, it's not, it is Guy Swarbrick, sorry. So Guy Swarbrick just holding his line. Turns in, slight wobble from Colin Knief. He's lost a little bit of speed. Tim Perry trying to get as much of a slipstream from Guy's car to slingshot past Colin. He has the inside line, both into the braking zone. Turn 1, side by side still. Colin Knief running slightly wide, carrying more speed through the corner. Dips in front, it's very close racing between the two. You can see how close they are now. Tim will have the slipstream again, trying to look to the outside. For the second time now, drag races. This is the last lap of the race. Drag race into the bus stop. Colin Knief holds his line. This time there's contact between the two. As we look who will get going first. They actually get going roughly at the same time. And continue the race where they left off before the contact. So Colin Knief holding his line as they went into the right-hander of the bus stop. Tim Perry couldn't get the car slowed down enough to dip in behind him. Ran across the grass, unfortunately clipped the back end of Colin's car. Both got going again. It looks like Colin made a slightly cleaner rejoin to the track, but they did get going roughly in the same place. There's a 0.8 second difference now, but it looks like these are the final corners of the race. And unless anything disastrous happens in the last few laps, which it looks like it will not, Colin Knief will take the final win with a slight hit the barrier, just keep it in the straight line. Colin to take the win of the final race of the 2020 Alfa Romeo Owners Club season. Tim Perry coming in second place. Matt Daly takes third position, Andrew Whitehead in fourth. Paul Plant getting past Greg Young there, up into fifth place. A fantastic result from him. Greg Young in sixth. James Rose will come across the line to take seventh place. Colin Knief took first. That's correct. Tim Perry second. Matt Daly third. Fine. James Rose, as you see, come across the line. Rob Whitney just there with a slight back marker in front of him. Alan Matthews, oh no, in ninth place, but the car very stationary. It looks like he may have run out of fuel. So James James Rose is disconnected, but does seem to be on my screen in 7th place. Rob Whitney there in 8th place. Currently tied up with the back markers. That's not for position. Alan Matthews in 9th, but is currently coasting on the track. Well, Stephen Knight finishing in 10th, but a lap down, and so does Guy Swarbrick. So despite the have a slightly better camera angle than that, perhaps? No, not necessarily. So Alan Matthews just coasting along in 9th. Looks to, unfortunately, have run out of fuel. Hopefully that car can be recovered to the pits. But your winner of the final race of the 2020 Alfa Romeo Owners Club season, Colin Keneath. Let's bring it into the pits there. All down the entire season, and it still comes down all down to the last lap in the last race. So incredible skill from all of the drivers to get to this point. So fantastic, and well done to all the competitors for competing throughout the year. By my calculations, that shows on my screen that Matt Daly has just done enough to take the overall title for the Alfa Romeo Owners Club Bianco Motorsport Series. And what was the other one? The endurance title and the final race of the season does go to Colin Keneath, who again is also the winner of the grid place on the Alfa Romeo Championship Association grid in the new year. So fantastic, well done to both of them. Let me just check to see. We do indeed have we have Greg Young, and we have Andrew Whitehead. We don't have Greg Young, we have Andrew Whitehead though. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you?
Oh, exhausted after that.
I can imagine. Just nothing like an endurance race to end the season.
It's a fiery little beastie, that is. Super fiery.
Very quick circuits as well for these cars as well. So yeah. How did you find that overall race?
It was tough. I've had an awkward, busy week, so I've done no practice at all. I actually just got access to the car just before the race, so I knew I was going to be a bit rusty. So over the moon with 4th, actually.
Fantastic. I think you were in a little battle there with Alan Matthews as well, trading places a little bit. But yeah, well done.
I think we took it in turns, trading paint with the Armco as well. So we sort of, our performance dropped off a bit as we did those little scrapes. But yeah, all good. I'd love to take this opportunity, by the way, to congratulate Colin. Phenomenal drive all season. I think that even shows with the results of the Fair Play Award, with for the fewest incidents and everything. Absolute stalwart performance, and congratulations, Mr. Conniff, and rest assured, COVID permitting, I shall be there at Silverstone to cheer you on.
He has joined us as well. Colin, how are you feeling after that final race of the season?
Yeah, it was good. I'm still to look back at what happened with a couple of incidents I had, so I wouldn't be cheering a win just yet, because I'd never assume anything like that. But yeah, it was good, especially to win it on strategy. I was just speaking to Tim there, and he says he put a little bit more fuel in than required, whereas I was able to just finish and get back to the pits with fumes left. So yeah, I just judged it to perfection. But yeah, it was a good race, and I could just see Tim coming in my mirrors, and like I say, I don't know what happened up at the bus stop. But yeah, I was just about to look at it, and I'll see who was at fault for that.
Very, very well done. All the way down to the final lap of the race. You can just see him getting closer and closer to you.
Yeah, and then I can't remember where I made it. Oh, it was through the carousel. I just clipped the inside corner, and it just threw the car wide, and I knew that he was on my tail for the last lap and a half there. And then we were catching Guy as well, trying to lap him, and he didn't know where to go either because there was two cars side by side. So yeah, it was a bit mad.
Indeed. Looking back through further on in the race, I think you had a bit of a bump with Paul Plant as well down the back straight.
Yeah, that's on the list of looking back at as well. So I don't know what happened yet.
It was a fairly strange one. It just sort of bounced off you down the main straightaway. But yes, well, provisionally pending any stewards inquiries. Well done on the race and the season for what's gone on, and of course, yes, you've got the title for the to race the car in real life.
Yeah, it's I'm looking for. Well, it all depends on work pending. Of course, I put holidays in and they've got declined, so I'm kind of having to see what happens with that.
I think there may be enough people that will possibly have to smuggle you away from work for that one. But...
I can see, but now that I've put it on the public domain, that I could get out for that.
bit more leverage over getting holiday hours there.
Hey, if I can help out, I'll work your shift for you so you can get down there.
I appreciate that. I've got plenty of people that I could try and I've got favours to work through, so I'll
all
try
of
and
the
get
favours are pulled
sorted.
in now to get you down there. Oh dear. Well, thank you both, gents. It's been fantastic racing from everyone and yourselves through the grid. So yes, I'll
great having you here as well. It's been good having commentary on races and stuff too. So yeah, it's been
slightly late in the season that I joined, but yeah, it's fun watching. It's fun watching it. It's really, really good racing to watch. But
Superb.
Yes, hopefully,
yeah. Thank you so much for doing that. It's just added that extra level of immersion for the season, and it's brilliant for all of us. And I shall see you on Sunday because we're battling for an independence title, I believe.
Possibly. Wait, I get to battle for something? Ooh.
Yeah, we're right there, ready for it.
Cool, fantastic. Well, I shall
Good
see you
luck
then.
with that one, then.
I shall see you then. Thank you very much, gents.
All right, thank you.
Charles. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I need my breath back and my voice back and everything after that. So, of course, obviously pending any stewards inquiries, that has been sewn up. I'm sure there's social media channels for all the Alfa Romeo Owners Club to follow if said changes should be announced. I will be streaming in the new year with the Alfa Romeo Owners Club, so we should look forward to that as well. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas and New Year, and thank you for joining me in my commentary of the series. Well done to all the competitors that have done their best through the year. Well done to all the new class winners is the words I'm trying to look for, and also well done, congratulations to all the organisers and everyone that's involved in putting this all together, because it's no easy feat to do this and coordinate everything and everyone together with all the content and organisation and points and all the rest of it. So yes, everyone involved deserves should have a well-deserved pat on the back. So yeah, so hopefully we'll see you soon in the new year when we get streaming again. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic Christmas.